Robert Griffin III, better known as RG3, was once the NFL's brightest young star. His rookie season was nothing short of sensational, and it looked like he was on the fast track to becoming one of the best quarterbacks in the league. But within just a few short years, everything changed. The injuries, the coaching conflicts, and the management. How did it all go so wrong? Today, we're taking a look at the rise and fall of RG3. From his meteoric rise to his eventual downfall, let's break down what really happened to one of the NFL's biggest what-ifs. To understand Robert Griffin III's NFL career, we have to start with his unique upbringing. Back in Okinawa, Japan, in 1990, Griffin was the son of two U.S. Army sergeants, Robert Griffin Jr. and Jacqueline Griffin. Military life meant constant movement, and before RG3 was 10, the Griffin family had moved from Japan to Tacoma, Washington, then to New Orleans, before finally settling in Carper's Cove, Texas. Moving around so much at a young age could be tough, but it also shaped RG3 into the disciplined, resilient athlete he would become. Growing up in a military family instilled in him the values of hard work, perseverance, and mental toughness. It wasn't long before sports became an outlet for Griffin. By middle school, he was already standing out as an exceptional athlete, and in high school, he was a three-sport star. Football, baseball, and track were all on his radar, but it was on the track where he truly made a name for himself. As a junior in high school, RG3 was the top-ranked 400-meter hurdler in the entire nation and was tied for first in the 110-meter hurdles. He even set Texas state records in both events, which is no small feat given the star's competitive high school athletic scene. But while track may have been where Griffin first grabbed national attention, his performance on the football field quickly turned heads as well. At Carper's Cove High School, he was an explosive dual-threat quarterback who could beat teams with his legs as easily as his arm. Over his junior and senior seasons, RG3 threw for more than 3,300 yards and 41 touchdowns, while adding another 2,100 rushing yards and 32 touchdowns. His ability to dominate games through the air and on the ground made him one of the most sought-after recruits in the country. When it came time to choose a college, RG3 had offers from several big-name programs, including Nebraska and Tennessee, but in the end, he decided to stay close to home and attend Baylor University, where he would play football and continue his track career. The choice turned out to be a monumental one, both for Griffin and for Baylor, a school that hadn't been known as a college football powerhouse for decades. Little did anyone know that RG3 was about to put Baylor football back on the map. RG3 arrived at Baylor in 2008, and it didn't take long for him to make his mark. Unlike many highly touted quarterbacks who are asked to redshirt their freshman season to serve as a backup, Griffin immediately took control of the offense. As a true freshman, he started 11 of 12 games. He showed flashes of brilliance with both his arm and his legs, helping Baylor become more competitive in the Big 12. By the end of that first season, he was named the Big 12 Offensive Freshman of the Year. Griffin's football career, however, wasn't without early setbacks. In just the third game of his sophomore season in 2009, Griffin suffered a devastating ACL tear in what should have been an easy matchup against Northwestern State. For many young players, an injury like that could be career-altering, especially for a dual-threat quarterback whose game relied so much on mobility. But RG3 was determined to bounce back. He underwent surgery and began the long, grueling process of rehabilitation. The injury forced him to miss the rest of the season, but he would return stronger than ever. In 2010, Griffin led Baylor to its first winning season in 16 years, showing that not only had he recovered from the injury, but he had also taken his game to another level. Still, it was the 2011 season that would solidify RG3's place in college football history. That year, Griffin was nothing short of spectacular. He threw for over 4,200 yards and 37 touchdowns with just 6 interceptions, while also rushing for nearly 700 yards and adding 10 more scores on the ground. Baylor, a team that had long been an afterthought in the Big 12, was suddenly a force to be reckoned with, and Griffin was at the center of it all. His ability to extend plays with his legs and make pinpoint throws downfield made him one of the most dynamic players in college football. By the end of the season, he had not only put Baylor on the map, but also captured the Helmets Trophy, the highest individual honor of college football. Griffin became the first player in Baylor history to win the award, and it was well deserved. With his draft stock at an all-time high, Griffin decided to forego his final year of college eligibility and declared for the 2012 NFL Draft. He was widely considered one of the top 2 prospects in the draft, along with Stanford's Andrew Luck. But unlike Luck, he was viewed as a traditional pocket passer. Griffin's dual threat ability made him a new breed of quarterback, one who would change the game in multiple ways. The lead up to the 2012 NFL Draft was filled with speculation about where RG3 would land. The Indianapolis Colts held the first ever overall pick and were expected to take Andrew Luck, who was considered a once-in-a-generation talent. But after Luck, RG3 was the clear next option. Several teams needed a quarterback, but no team was more desperate than the Washington Redskins. Washington had struggled for years to find consistency at the quarterback position, and the franchise was desperate for a savior. The Redskins originally held the 6th overall pick in the draft, but they knew they wouldn't be high enough to get RG3. So in a bold move, they traded a king's ransom to the St. Louis Rams to move up to the 2nd overall spot. Washington gave up 3 first-round picks and a second-rounder to secure the rights to draft Griffin, making one of the biggest trade packages in NFL history. The Redskins' front office and fan base were all in on RG3. They believed they had found their franchise quarterback, someone who could bring them back to playoff contention and hopefully Super Bowl glory. With so much riding on this young quarterback, the pressure on Griffin to deliver was immense from day one, but it didn't shy away from the challenge. Instead, he embraced it. If there were any doubts about RG3's ability to handle the transition from college to the NFL, he put them to rest immediately. Griffin made his NFL debut in Week 1 of the 2012 season against the New Orleans Saints, and he was nothing short of sensational. He threw for 320 yards and 2 touchdowns, while also adding 42 rushing yards. The Redskins pulled off an upset win, and Griffin was named NFC Offensive Player of the Week, becoming the first rookie quarterback in NFL history to win the award in his debut game. Griffin's combination of passing accuracy and speed made him a nightmare for defenses. He wasn't just a quarterback who could throw. He was a quarterback who could take off for a 40-yard run at any minute. Washington's offense was built around the read option, a system that capitalizes on Griffin's unique skill set. By the end of September, RG3 had been named NFL Offensive Rookie of the Month, and he was quickly becoming the talk of the league. Griffin was shattering rookie records left and right, and Washington, a team that had long been a bottom dweller, suddenly looked like a playoff contender. But while Griffin was lighting up the scoreboard, Washington's season wasn't going as smoothly. By week 11, the team was sitting at 3-6, and their playoff hopes were on the life support. That's when RG3 took his game to another level. In a must-win game against the Philadelphia Eagles, Griffin delivered one of the most memorable performances of his rookie season, throwing for 200 yards and 4 touchdowns while rushing for 75 yards. He became the first rookie quarterback in NFL history to pass for more than 200 yards and 4 touchdowns while rushing for 75 yards in a single game. That game sparked a 7-game winning streak for Washington, propelling them into the playoffs for the first time since 2007. Griffin had led one of the most remarkable turnarounds in recent memory, and his efforts didn't go unnoticed. He was named NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year, and many believe that he was just scratching the surface of his potential. While Griffin's rookie season was historic, it wasn't without its issues. As the season wore on, Griffin's health became a growing concern. In Week 14, during a game against the Baltimore Ravens, Griffin took a hard hit while scrambling and suffered a sprained LCL in his right knee. He missed the following game, but returned to lead Washington to 2 more victories, securing a playoff spot. However, Griffin's knee was far from fully healed when Washington faced the Seattle Seahawks in the wild card round of the playoffs. Throughout the game, it was clear that Griffin wasn't his usual self. He was limping noticeably and struggled to generate the same explosive plays that had defined his rookie season. Late in the game, with Washington trailing by 7, disaster struck. Griffin took a low snap, and as he attempted to retrieve the ball, his right knee buckled, sending him crumpling to the ground. The injury was severe. Griffin had torn both his ACL and LCL, ending his season and putting his future in jeopardy. The decision to allow Griffin to play in the game became one of the most controversial moments in recent NFL history. Many blamed Washington's head coach, Mike Shanahan, for failing to protect his young quarterback. Others criticized the team's medical staff for clearing Griffin to play when it was clear that he wasn't fully healthy. Some even pointed the finger at RG3 himself, who had been adamant about playing despite his injury. Regardless of who was to blame, the damage was done. Griffin underwent surgery to repair his torn ACL and LCL, and his recovery time was uncertain. The football world waited anxiously to see if RG3 could return to his rookie form. After undergoing surgery in January 2013, Griffin embarked on a grueling rehabilitation process. Throughout the offseason, he remained confident that he would be ready for the start of the 2013 season, launching the now infamous All-In for Week 1 campaign. The campaign created massive expectations as Griffin publicly stated his intention to return to the field for Washington's season opener. But even though he was cleared to play, many questioned whether he was truly ready. When the 2013 season kicked off, it quickly became clear that Griffin wasn't the same player. He had lost much of his explosiveness that had made him so dangerous the previous year, and Washington's offense became far more predictable as a result. Defenses no longer feared Griffin's running ability, allowing them to focus on stopping his passing game. The result was disastrous for both Griffin and Washington. In the first 3 games of the season, Griffin put up decent passing numbers, averaging over 300 yards per game, but his lack of mobility made him far less effective overall. Washington lost all 3 games, and the team's playoff hopes began to slip away. Griffin, who had looked unstoppable just a year earlier, now seemed tentative, unsure of himself, and hesitant to run. Despite a mid-season rally where Washington won 3 of 5 games, the team ultimately fell apart down the stretch. Washington lost its final 8 games, finishing the season with a 3-for-13 record. Griffin's performance was a shadow of what it had been in 2012, and the pressure on him mounted. By the final 3 games of the season, RG3 was benched in favor of backup quarterback Kirk Cousins, marking a low point in his young career. The struggles of the 2013 season weren't just physical for Griffin, they're also mental. Behind the scenes, tensions were rising between Griffin and Washington's coaching staff. Griffin wanted to transition into more of a traditional pocket passer, hoping to preserve his health and longevity in the league. But head coach Mike Shanahan and offensive coordinator Kyle Shanahan believed that Griffin needed to continue utilizing his athleticism, particularly in the read option offense that had been so successful during his rookie year. This disagreement created friction, and some rumors began to surface that team owner Dan Snyder was siding with Griffin over the coaching staff. Some reports suggested that Snyder had given Griffin a level of influence within the organization that was uncommon for a second-year player, and that this had created division in the locker room. Teammates began to question Griffin's leadership, and the once united team started to fall apart. By the end of 2013, the situation had become untenable. Mike Shanahan was fired, and Washington brought in a new head coach, Jay Gruden, in hopes of turning the franchise around. But the damage had already been done, and Griffin's relationship with the organization had soured. Under new head coach Jay Gruden, Griffin was given another chance to prove himself in 2014. He entered training camp as the team's starting quarterback, but his struggles from the previous season continued. In just the second game of the season, Griffin dislocated his ankle while trying to make a play along the sideline. The injury sidelined him for several weeks, and when he returned to the field, his play was inconsistent at best. After a series of poor performances, Gruden made the difficult decision to bench Griffin in favor of Colt McCoy. It was a stunning fall from grace for RG3, who had been the NFL's Rookie of the Year just 2 seasons earlier. By the start of the 2015 season, Griffin had been relegated to backup status, and Kirk Cousins had taken over as the team's starting quarterback. Griffin didn't take a single snap that season, and it was clear that his time in Washington was coming to an end. In the offseason, Washington officially released RG3, bringing his tenure with the franchise to a close. Griffin wasn't out of the league yet though. He signed a 2-year deal with the Cleveland Browns in 2016, hoping to resurrect his career. But once again, injuries derailed his comeback. In week 1 of the 2016 season, Griffin fractures his left shoulder, landing him on injured reserve for much of the year. Although he returned later in the season, he was unable to regain his previous form. The Browns released him at the end of the year, and RG3's NFL future looked bleak. After spending the entire 2017 season out of football, RG3 got one last chance when the Baltimore Ravens signed him to a 1-year deal in 2018. However, Griffin wasn't brought in to be the team starter. Instead, he was signed to serve as a backup and mentor to the Ravens' first-round pick, Lamar Jackson. For Griffin, this was a full-circle moment. Lamar Jackson's playing style, his dual-threat abilities, his speed, and his elusiveness was eerily similar to what RG3 had been during his rookie season. Griffin embraced his role as a mentor, helping Jackson develop and providing valuable leadership in the locker room. While Griffin saw limited action on the field, throwing just a handful of passes during his time in Baltimore, his presence on the sideline was invaluable. He had become a veteran voice for a young, up-and-coming quarterback who would go on to win MVP honors in 2019. The rise and fall of Robert Griffin III is one of the NFL's great what-if stories. He had all the tools to become a superstar, a rocket arm, blazing speed, and an intelligence to pick apart defenses. But injuries, mismanagement, and internal conflicts derailed what should have been a Hall of Fame career. His story serves as a cautionary tale about the fine line between success and failure in professional sports. While RG3's career may not have lived up to the early hype, his impact on the game is undeniable. He helped pave the way for the next generation of dual-threat quarterbacks, and his mentorship of Lamar Jackson shows that he still has plenty to offer the football world, even if his days as a starter are over. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this breakdown of RG3's career, make sure to hit that subscribe button and check out more of our content on the NFL's biggest stars and stories.